we'll see if it works today. We get mixed results. We'll see if it works today. Okay, but first, I want to point out President's Day, which is not Monday. I mean, it is Monday, but our show or our meetup is going to be on Tuesday. Okay, a week from today. I'll keep promoting it to some extent. Some of you have written and asked me for the link and that information, and so I've got that for you. And but write it down, put it on your calendar, 3 p.m. Chicago time, next Tuesday. Yeah, somebody actually asked me, when's the next one of your little get-togethers? People like that. And Mike's going to send his new VP of Creative, so that ought to be great, from Gunderson Direct. And maybe Jeff Tarrant will come. We got a bunch of people marking it down. So put it on your calendar. It's one of the best ways to meet other like-minded direct mail people around the country, and maybe even we can get Matthew Parker to come. He's over in the UK. Wouldn't that be great? If you know anybody around the world, be sure to invite them. Right? Then the link is in my feed, but also we'll be putting it in the WDMA LinkedIn group and some other places, the NMOA, so that you can all see where to go on a week from today. Okay, now that I got that done, we're going to talk about the Super Bowl ads. Yesterday we preempted that because we have to wait for the dust to settle. You know, nothing happens this fast in the world. And so now we've got a really great article from one of the guys at System 1, I think. And I was on a 1-hour System 1 discussion. I learned a lot about how they measure all of this stuff. And they actually do facial stuff so that you can tell if people are happy or sad or angry or what. And we'll get into that in a second. But one of their top picks, or maybe I think their top pick, well, we'll get into that. But I think their top pick was the Michelob Ultra. And I just had a lot of trouble with that because, you know, I lettered in soccer. I was the team captain. I mean, I was, you know, pretty fair soccer player, but I'm not rating the number one ad for a football game as a soccer player, kicking the ball around. And you see, that's the trouble, and that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the trouble with experts versus data. Okay, I think it's going to be good. I think you should hang on. But first, let's watch Arnold. He rescues the puppies, and he's coming out of there's the burning house, if you can see that, and that's where we're going to pick it up. There it comes. He's got the puppies. The house
Thank
blows
you,
up.
Agent State Farm.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Cut. Hey, Arnold, I'm hearing neighbor. It's neighbor.
That's what I said. Neighbor.
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 Hey, let's go again.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Cut.
Now what?
Neighbor.
Yeah, neighbor. Just like it's written on the paper. Neighbor! That was the sheep. And you know it. Neighbor.
Still no.
Neighbor.
Neighbor.
Bah.
Bah.
This lady is in labor.
Cut. Arnold, got a bit of a script change. You'll love this.
Thank you, Agent State Farm.
Like a good
neighbor, State Farm is there.
You are a backstabber.
You're a backstabber. I'm a backstabber. Oh, mercy, mercy, mercy. And they were, of course, in the film Twins, which is a great premise, you know. That Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger could be twins. And, you know, it's possible, I guess. Fraternal twins, not identical twins. Anyway, so, you know, over and over and over, neighbor, like a good neighbor. You know what this commercial is about, okay? You know what it's about, and it's also like that, like the chaos guy. Now I can't even remember which insurance company he's from. I've been thinking about it all morning. You know, the guy who says mayhem, the mayhem guy. We've got the same well, we start with a mayhem theme. I'm not sure the hell, I think they could have done a better job of the idea of when disaster strikes were there. I think that would have been good. They sort of got that with the initial burning house, but the helicopter um, and the sheep and those kind of jumped the shark, I think. But it was really good with making sure you knew who was paying for this commercial. Okay, $7 million. So let's get over to the news. I have to click on the chat. Okay, and thank you for the wishes on my birthday yesterday. I'm a little puzzled because we're just not getting. LinkedIn has decided not to show my posts to anyone anymore. I had like 100. Mayhem guy is Allstate. Thank you, David. He can look this stuff up. I have to go live. I can't just be searching Google. Thank you, David. And I did look through your newsletter, and I looked through the January and February editions, and they have excellent stuff in them. I'm especially interested in the how to read a data card. You think I don't remember this stuff? I do remember. Anyway, so, as usual, I need a PDF. So here's the top 10 Super Bowl ads from USA Today, which is kind of the one everybody sort of looks at. They do have an ad metering, and what I learned yesterday on the System 1 webinar was that they no longer just have 20 people in a room that are turning a dial. That was one of the problems with that, which is the way it used to be done, was people got sick of them by the second half. And so as we showed the data, not much for data, as we showed the data, if you ran your ad in the second or third or fourth quarter, it got really low ratings. But that could have been because of the people playing the game. So USA Today has expanded that dramatically, but it doesn't say exactly how. Rick Suter doesn't give us that little bit of information. But here's their number 10 was Doritos. We'll just skip down. Their number 1 was, in fact, Like a Good Neighbor. Okay, State Farm reunited an all-time duo in the 60-second spot, which features Arnold Schwarzenegger as Agent State Farm. See, I didn't realize that. In the movie Agent State Farm, alongside the legendary action hero, his sidekick Danny DeVito, who steps in with a bit of neighborly Annunciation help. It's not like the Feast of the Annunciation. We could say articulation, something. But if you ever tried to learn a foreign language, a lot of times you can't hear. You literally can't hear the differences because you're not raised in the language. Your brain basically sorts out when you're born, you have like a rift array of sounds that you potentially can learn, but by the time you're 1 or 2, you've learned those sounds, and you just can't necessarily hear the differences in another language. And there's obviously funny stories about people getting up and giving a speech and using a really wrong word that sounds a lot like a similar word. So we're not going to blame Arnold Schwarzenegger, who I think went to Superior, UW Superior, I think, and got his marketing degree in Wisconsin. He's a UW Wisconsin graduate from the university system, not the University of Wisconsin like Ohio State says. They only have one school, I think. We have a whole array, which makes us the first or second biggest. I think California might be the biggest, but we're the second largest university system in the world, I believe. I don't know if that's still accurate. But anyway, here's the article by Andrew Tyndall, and apparently he has some association with System 1. And he says he was up late the last 2 nights sorting out, which of course would be Sunday night, Monday. Yeah, okay, that's right. Sunday night, Monday night, It was Adland's worst Super Bowl in years, but everyone's too afraid to tell you. But he's not. Andrew's not. Okay, so he must work with John Evans, who I'm connected with. So I'll reach out to Andrew. But anyway, they tested all 70 of the 24-20 Super Bowl ads with over 10,000 Americans to understand consumers' thoughts and feelings, and they do some kind of facial measurement, which was explained on the webinar. I want you to know I do background research on this show. Okay. And they have 4 or 5 years of previous history, where hopefully they've actually compared whether the brand built or shrank because of the Super Bowl ads. That would be really ducky. Okay. And so what does winning a Super Bowl even mean? Wouldn't it be nice if marketers spent money making ads that grew brands? That is not even on the plate. Most ad agencies. They want to win awards. They would like their Super Bowl ad to be remembered, but they don't care really that they sell your product. Not really. Okay, and Andrew got a doctorate at the University College London, and then went into regular advertising marketing, booze for Bacardi and Diego, and was taught to make evidence-based decisions. And we throw that stuff around, but we really, really don't get it. And that's why I wanted to talk about this article, because I like that Andrew put in the hierarchy of evidence. Okay? Write this down, take notes, PhD level stuff. Okay? So here is expert opinion and background information. That's basically what you get here every day. Why? Because in marketing, that's pretty much all there stinking is, right? We don't, for some reason, want to really know the answer. Our direct mail buddies know, and if you read Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins at scientificadvertising.com, it's, I think, $4 now. It used to be free, but I think it's $4. It's well worth it. You can download the PDF. If you pay $9, I think it's $9, you get the audio version, and so you can listen to it over and over, and I have that downloaded. I'm not giving it to you. Go over to scientificadvertising.com. But anyway, so when he was working on his PhD, they certainly didn't allow him to use expert opinion as evidence for his whatever he was writing about. They didn't really even let him use case reports. What's the difference between a case report and a case study? I'll tell you what. Okay? Case studies, real case studies, have controls. Really, really good case studies have cohort studies, okay, where they do multiple studies with multiple controls and look at variables different ways. What really, really, really great studies have are randomized controlled trials, RCT, okay, where we really try to isolate for the variables of impact, okay? And then they go through meta-analysis, which is comparing to other studies, and systematic review, where they go out and find other people to tell if they actually set up the experiments right. Now, when I got started in direct marketing, basically, we took a set of labels and we chopped them in half. Okay, so labels came 4 up. Let's see. We'll say like this, but they actually were this big. Labels came printed up and they were called Cheshire labels. And that meant they were printed on paper, and we'd take the labels over to the letter shop and we would put glue on them and stick them. We'd cut them into pieces. The machines would cut them into pieces and they would glue them on to our mailer. Okay? Believe it or not. And the reason we did that was because when they were printed out 4 up, we literally, when we did A/B splits, these were not like every other person who comes to your website. That is not a valid randomized split, right? All those people have a skew that they care about your website. They may not care much, but they at least turned up somehow, right? or they may have been pushed there by Google or some other advertising. They're not a random sample. When we took a mailing list and cut it in half, chunk, and did 2 to this mailing piece and 2 to that piece, it's a randomized sample. Got that? Our entire list was split so that we knew that we had at least a representative sample of that list in both sides. That doesn't make it perfect. There could still be a big order that came from one piece or the other. There were still things you had to look at and be careful of. But this is why direct mail has a tradition of insight that no other media has. Because it's very, very difficult to get a good random sample in any other media, right? Because people have proclivities to a TV show A or a TV show B. You know, you weren't able to show every other household one ad versus another. It just broadcast as it broadcast. Now you can maybe with streaming or live, but again, you have to be very, very careful because those are already a skewed sample. Okay, so bravo for that. Why aren't we up in here? Because people don't feel like it, and they don't want to use mail mostly. Okay, all the articles you see from senior marketers sharing their favorite ads are brilliant and draw from decades of experience. Still, they firmly sit at the bottom of this evidence pyramid. And so do the judges giving out the awards for the most flashy advertising, right? Just above the layer that at the bottom, just above the layer that my director told me I wasn't allowed to draw in, okay? At the bottom, right? Which is an inevitable brown layer base called Some Wanker's Opinion on LinkedIn. Okay? That's not to say we need to use systematic reviews to create ads, but to understand how ads perform, we need to reach high up on this pyramid as possible to get evidence supporting these experts' efforts. Right. Okay. So anyway, Orlando Wood, building on the work of Les Bennett and Peter Fields, the long and short of it, which Mark Ritson is a big fan of, built this system to evaluate ads. And I should say their ranking of the Super Bowl came out fairly similar to the ranking that USA Today did now in their spike analysis, which I hope we get to. They have a star rating, and they compare that with I think that's estimated share of voice. I don't know what the E is for. But anyway, the EOV on its own is only 27% predictive, but with their stuff added, it's 48% predictive of who's going to get more market share downstream from their advertising. And so he doesn't want to give us his opinion like he does on LinkedIn. He's going to actually go with the study. And the first thing he mentions was the Temu ad, which was the ad with the pink prices flying around that my son said, my daughter said, that's just garbage from China. There's no good quality there at all. So she'd heard of it. I'd never heard of it. I said, I buy a lot of junk from China on eBay. She said, yeah, but that's not junk like this. This is really junk. So anyway, she knew what that was. I didn't know. This year's Super Bowl ads were generally the worst I've seen in a while. About a third of them scored a 1 star and failed to elicit any positive brand building emotions. Okay, so there we go. Here's the ones. So they were worse down here in 2019. No, this is I don't know how this is overall. Doesn't look right. How can that be? It's really hard to read this. Let's see if I can make it bigger and make it. Oh, U.S. general. Oh, this is general advertising. Okay. So generally, most ads do nothing. 1 or 2 stars is like 80%. Okay. But every now and then there's a good one. This year, there weren't any good ones. There weren't any 5 stars at all. Okay. And you could say 50% or more, 60%, were generally not going to build your brand. Okay, so this was about, although that's about the same, that's about the average year, but the ones were worse than average. So the Super Bowl, it tends to have fewer mindlessly uh, neutral ads. Okay, so here's the top 11. They're broadly entertaining. They have no complex in-joke or reliance on you knowing who the celebrity is. Okay, they kept putting Beyonce's name up there, and I said, "Is this Beyonce?" I don't know who she is, and it just didn't make any sense at all. T-Mobile had Zach and Donald on again, singing musical sort of things. My kids told me that was Aquaman. I didn't know, so I disagree a little bit. There were 4 ads that had 0. Got 0 in the Super Bowl winners. The winner was Ultra. Reese's was about how they were gonna discontinue something, and they were gonna make a limited edition caramel, but they're gonna make millions of them. Okay. This is I think this is the USA Today or the Spike this is the Fluency. So for brand recognition, and Ultra was right in front of Messi on the bar tab. So the State Farm didn't do too well on Fluency. And some of them, they couldn't recall, not even 20% could recall who the ad was for. I always like to see the losers. So this is their standout was Ultra, and in the star category, so they think these are going to have long-term positive impact on the brand. And where did I get? Oh, that was the Spike Index was the top, was the one where it was the top rated State Farm. Okay, here's State Farm. Okay, that's the stuff. So they did okay. So they were number 4. Okay, and I've already shown you the Uber Eats, and I didn't think much of the Pfizer. Hellman's, I don't like cats, so you're dead there. Budweiser, I'm not that high on dogs either. So my favorite was probably State Farm. That's enough for today. I can't get to the test results. I'll get you tomorrow. Have a great day. Don't forget to put on your calendar that we're going to have a meetup next week, Tuesday, 3 p.m. Chicago time. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will know you're smart. Bye-bye.